Baylor will likely be without one of their most important players against SMU on Saturday. And Dave Aranda's response to that, heck if I know.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Monarch Money and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas, and you know what day it is. Wicker Wednesday. Sydney Wicker of KCEN Channel 6 joins your favorite day of the week, and just another day closer to Saturday for most of us. We will be talking about that matchup on Saturday with SMU. A huge part of Baylor's defense probably not going to be playing in this one. And Dave Aranda doesn't really know how to replace him, apparently. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about which Big 12 team won and lost. Not like literally which one scored more points than the other team, but like who were the biggest winners and losers from the weekend that was in the Big 12. And then maybe a player that did shine for Baylor on Friday who should get some more love this Saturday against SMU. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. Sydney Wicker, I would say Baylor did not do a great job stopping the run on Friday. I think that's fair to say. Jackie Marshall goes out in the first quarter of that game, high ankle sprain, day to day is what Dave Aranda is saying. I know it's not when you give up 300 yards in the ground, it's not just one player, but how integral is that couple minutes into the game, your best defensive lineman out for the rest of it?
I think throughout that whole game, we saw Baylor's defense is just not there. But when you lose a guy who is such a big vocal leader and just such a veteran guy who has so much experience, no matter what, that's going to hurt you. So it definitely only made it worse that they didn't have him there. But I don't think he was the sole reason behind it. That whole defense they need to start from scratch. Like, let's start fall camp all over again. Defense. Yeah. Offense, take a break. Defense, let's figure it out. But yeah, it sucks to lose a guy like Jackie. We talk all the time about how Thomas is like a quarterback of his room, and that's the same with Jackie. He really is the quarterback of the defense and can help just in so many big situations. So it just sucks to see a guy like that go down in week one in the first quarter. It wasn't even at the end of the game. It was the very beginning, which just sucks.
Yeah, and you said it. It's like if Jackie Marshall plays 4 quarters, then hopefully they only give up, 280 rushing yards or 270. And who knows? Maybe that does make a difference in the game. It's a 7-point game when Baylor last had the football with 2 minutes left in the game. So, or 4 minutes left in the game, whatever it was. So maybe it does make more of a difference than we're letting on. But it does sting, like you said, in the first quarter, to lose that, kind of like Bryson Washington in the Texas Bowl last year, just on the other side of the football, where all of a sudden you went in with a game plan. Certainly in that one, you thought you could get after LSU running the football. In this one, you knew you had to stop Auburn running the football. You take a key part out of this. So now we look at SMU, a team that does have a mobile quarterback that is going to want to run the football. Maybe not as much as Auburn does, but who's going to say no to running the football if you can? And Dave Aranda's asked on Monday, hey, if Jackie Marshall's not going to be there, what are you going to do?
With Jackie's limited or whatever role it's going to be, like, who do you expect to step up and kind of fill that gap? And I know you talked about some people that have been here for a few weeks that need to kind of get with it.
It's a good question. I think that is the question. Right there is that one. I think there's less struggles on the front of the defense and just physicality-wise, playing blocks-wise, just things that really would like for us to be beyond at this point. And so we're kind of going back to square one with all of that. We're going to have to be creative, I feel.
Yeah, that doesn't get me too jazzed. I'm not going to lie to you, Sydney. Does that get you fired up for this weekend?
No, it actually just makes me terrified in a situation where this game is almost must win. Like, if you want to hit any of your goals, like, you literally have to win out for the rest of the season. Maybe drop one game, like you're allowed maybe one flex one. But do you want week 2 to be that that last loss for you. Like, not when you
It's
play in the
tough.
Big 12.
Yeah, it's tough for Baylor to win 10 games in a row. Like,
Yeah.
I know we saw 6 last year, and then it came apart at game number 7. So, you know what I mean? It's really tough to win it 10 times in a row, especially with the schedule that Baylor's had or has this year. And we kind of talked about it in the summer of like, look, it could be 2-2 through 4 games, and it's not the end of the world. And it's not. But then all of a sudden you start 0-1, and you're like, well, really wouldn't want it to be 0-2. 0-2 is really bad. So I think you're right. Like, I think Baylor is facing a must-win situation here before we even get to the Big 12 schedule. Because, like, they can win the Big 12 even starting 0-2. Or let's just say, let's put it this way. They can start 0-2, go to the Big 12 championship game. And typically being in that game is going to get you in the conversation for a 12-team playoff. But, like, we know how this works. If they go again 10-2, but they start 0-2 and they're in that championship game, the committee's going to look at them and they're going to say, am I going to take the one that lost by 2 touchdowns to Auburn and lost to an SMU team that we're sitting here looking at 7-5, and they're the second best team in a conference we don't really appreciate? Then that's not going to help Baylor, right? Like, that is, you got to win one of these.
For sure. And SMU is just a chance to make a statement. Like, they are a top 25 team. Like, yeah, it sucks that you lost to Auburn, but this is your chance to rebound and you have everything going for you. Maybe it helps that SMU might be able to sleep on you a little bit. They played a team that not a lot of people even know was a real football team. Yes. So this is your chance. Like, catch them by surprise. You guys at least played a good opponent in Auburn. Like, no matter what, anytime you play an SEC team, you're going to face a good team.
I don't know, man. I think there's going to be millions watching East Texas A&M this weekend. I think you're
probably
wrong.
Now, because I just roasted them.
Yeah, I think you're so wrong on that.
Everybody's going to start sending me their merch, and I'm going to have to wear it.
This could lead to an impromptu trivia question. I want to know, and this is totally subjective, I want to know who the best player ever from East Texas A&M, formerly A&M Commerce, and I think formerly before that, East Texas A&M. Let me know who that is in the comment section below. But looking at this, it's not inspiring a lot of confidence that Dave is saying, yeah, you know what? We'll kind of figure it out. I don't know. Yeah, we got to kind of start from square one after 8 months of buildup for that Auburn game and the whole transfer portal class and the month of fall camp, knowing what Auburn was going to do to you and not being able to stop it. And then after week 1, your head coach saying, yeah, we kind of need to get to square one in some of these position groups, some of these alignments. Am I underreacting here? That feels like a bad thing to hear after week 1, especially when you're about to play a team that's in the top 20 and made the college football playoff last year, and you're going to play them on the road.
I think something that's almost like more embarrassing is the fact that Davis sounded so confident in his ability to balance both roles all off season long. And then here we are, we see a defense that's looked just as bad, if not maybe even worse than they did when they came out last season. So it's like, well, what progress was made? Like, you did have all of this time to do that. What was the biggest difference? I, from the beginning, said you got to just get a new defensive coordinator. Like, I don't think you need to be in this position where you're balancing both. And we even thought that was a little disrespectful at first for Dave to even take on this role when he did have a defensive coordinator right there. Yep. I know Dave's a defense guy, and that's great. But what improvements are we seeing from that?
And it's worth noting, again, we've said it a bunch, but now it takes on a different kind of angle. Maybe there's a reason why nobody else does it in Division I. There's play callers, Lord knows. There's offensive play callers that are head coaches, but Dave was the only one that was a defensive play caller last year. Maybe there's a reason for that. And it's looking more apparent after that week 1 performance and what we're hearing after week 1, but that could be corrected against a pretty good quarterback in Kevin Jennings when they take on SMU this Saturday. Baylor was a loser in week 1, but who was the biggest loser in the Big 12? Who was Wicker's winner? We'll tell you who those teams are coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from our newest sponsor, the Locked On Podcast Network, and that is Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. They offer more than just safety. It's one more 2020 athletes who focus on every detail. Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details that win games, that make the big plays, and it's also what should be going into your favorite car. Just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here on Locked On Baylor on a Wicker Wednesday, and we're putting more of the power in the Wick Dogs' hands, okay? New segment, Locked On Baylor. Texted Sydney last night. I'm saying, we got to do this. And Sydney was so gung-ho about it.
He loved it.
She's not shut up about it all day. Who the Wicker's winner is going to be. What we're going to do on these episodes is take a look at the week before, before we take a look at the week ahead. Who was the biggest winner, the biggest loser in the conference? It's mostly going to be teams, but it can be a player, it can be a coach. So I don't want to put any more preamble on it. Sydney, we eventually got some big wins in the Big 12. It took a minute this weekend. It took till at least Saturday night before the conference got a big victory. Who was your biggest winner from the Big 12 in week 1?
I hate to say this on Locked On Baylor,
Do it,
but I have to. TCU, I mean, how could they not be the winner? Josh Hoover looked legit. So good. And I think what gets a little discredited too sometimes is the fact that can you still see me, Cam?
There we go.
He's
That's gonna work.
Around.
It's gonna work.
I think what gets a little discredited is the fact that you know what, if you're just listening, just listen. But if you're watching, I hope you're having fun connecting the dots here. One more time. I think it's a little discredited how much hype went into this game with it being Bill Belichick's first game at UNC. And so I feel like TCU was such a sleeper going into this game in general. All of the focus was on UNC. And I think it can be easy to let a lot of those narratives go to your head. And they really showed that they didn't. Josh Hoover, what an incredible game he had. He just looked so good. Like, really, it was the first time TCU scared me in a long time. And I was like, wow, their offense was really, really impressive to me. And defensively too, gosh, they got after North Carolina so quickly. So all around, I think that they were the biggest winners of the weekend.
Yeah, and not to discredit TCU because they did look really impressive. I think a lot of people were wondering what we were going to see from Belichick's UNC team. Hand to God, as a huge Belichick fan, I could have told you last week that team's going to stink. Team's going to stink.
I could have too.
But TCU, to their credit, they won the game. How they're going to win some games this year. They had 542 yards of total offense, and it was split pretty darn evenly, 284 to 258. That is the worst rushing attack in the conference last year for all intents and purposes, worst among actual competitive teams. And they had 258 yards rushing. They outrushed Carolina by 208 yards. Like that's a big step in the right direction. We talked about Josh Hoover. We know what Josh Hoover can do, but if this offense can be balanced under Kendall Briles, that's a team that can start making noise. That was one that you said could be a dark horse this year, Sydney.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime Baylor and TCU play each other, I'm always nervous. It doesn't matter if it's football, basketball, whatever. Like, anytime you play a team that you have bad blood with, you never know what can happen. I mean, I know that from growing up watching Michigan games. I didn't think Michigan had a chance against Ohio State last season, and look at what happened. You know, like, you never know with those rivalry type games. So I think this was a huge eye-opener. Maybe this TCU team is a lot better than we think it is. I really thought they were going to be middle of the Big 12 all season long. But now after seeing how they performed against UNC, I think that they could be in the top 4 of the Big 12 now. So definitely different. But they're my biggest winner of the week. Should we talk about the losers?
I think we should. I think we should.
I'm more excited to talk about the losers.
I know. I've got a morbid curiosity on it, so I've taken the mantle, at least in week one, to talk about the loser. And it's someone that you'll recognize from Baylor's schedule because they're right before TCU. Now, I'm going to get some heat for this because Baylor lost. Yep. Okay, maybe Baylor should be the biggest loser. They gave up 300 rushing yards. They took an unsure offense and made them sure of themselves and gave up 38 and lost at home. But Auburn is a Power 4 team. They're in the SEC. And guess what? They're in FBS. So that's going to, there's some credence to that. My biggest loser of the week also wears purple, and we'll face them the week before they faced TCU, and that's the Kansas State Wildcats. Kansas State won, but it was not pretty by any sense of the imagination. Obviously, coming off a loss in week one in Ireland, where there were a lot of questions, it was fairly sloppy, and it got even worse in week two, even in the game they won. They took on North Dakota, not North Dakota State. I think I should mention that. Anyone who's watched college football the last 15, 20 years, you hear North Dakota State, and you're like, yeah, but they're basically an FBS team. Like some of these years, they probably would have been a top 25 FBS team. Not that. The Fighting Hawks, formerly Fighting Sioux of the University of North Dakota, known for their hockey, not for their football, with their 7 or 8 national championships in hockey, had Kansas State being booed off the field at halftime. 21-17, they're down at half. Their own fans are booing them. Sydney, does anybody know how much it takes for them to boo Kansas State? Like, if you had told me Kansas State was one of those places that just never boos their own team ever, like A&M does, I would have totally understood that. They play at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Bill Snyder's like the nicest coach to ever exist. And it's Kansas, and they were booing their own team off the field. This is a team that's supposed to be winning the Big 12 championship this year, and they need a 2-minute game-winning touchdown drive to beat North Dakota.
Yeah, I think
it was a 2-minute game-winning touchdown drive. So
going back to even the week before playing Iowa State, they just didn't look good to me at all. I think Iowa State is decent this season. I like them. They are in the top 25. I get it. I like Iowa State this season, but Kansas State, like you said, they're supposed to be good. They're supposed to be better. They're supposed to be the top dogs. Well, they're not looking like it at all, and they've had 2 weeks of football under their belts this season.
And maybe I'm taking away from my own team that I cover, but I put a lot of expectations on Baylor this year, and they lose week one, but we were the only ones doing it. We were the only ones saying that Baylor's going to win the Big 12. Everyone else in Vegas and all these publications and everything, they're picking Kansas State. They're picking Avery Johnson. They're picking Chris Kleiman. And that was bad. That was not good football on Saturday against a team that was 26th in total offense last year.
Yeah.
In the FCS. Come on. It's Kansas State. That is the loser of the week for the Big 12 for me. But if you have a different loser of the week or a different winner of the week, I know there are some Utah fans ready to type in. Let us know in the comment section below. Overall, not a terrific week for the Big 12, I will say. That TCU victory did help out quite a lot, and certainly Utah over UCLA. But it was not a very strong week for the Big 12. Hopefully that changes coming up this weekend, and the Big 12 can make it 2 in a row over the ACC as Baylor takes on SMU. But they'll probably need to run the football a little bit more effectively to get there. Coming up, we'll tell you who they need to unleash to do just that. That's next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from our sponsor, and those are the great people over at FanDuel. Okay, you know them. You love them, as the great Matt Mosley would say. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. For me, it makes every game more exciting, whether I'm watching Baylor, which is exciting enough, or just sitting down, eating good food, and watching college football all Saturday like I know you're doing too. And I like getting my money fast. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. I like money in my pocket. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on the same laptop or phone that you're listening or watching this podcast right now. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDON, COLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com. Continuing on this Wicker Wednesday here on Locked On Baylor, we have talked the winners and losers of the week. We have talked about Dave Aranda just throwing darts at names, trying to see who's going to replace Jackie Marshall. Let's shift our focus here to the Baylor offense. Baylor's offense, pretty good on Friday night. Leave some points on the table? Sure as heck they did. 17 points on 5 red zone trips is not great. But when you're playing from behind the whole game, which hopefully they're not going to be doing every week, that kind of changes things. Sydney, it's almost exactly like the LSU game in this sense. They don't score on that second drive. They turn it over on downs in a goal-to-go situation, and then they're down 7-3 and eventually 14-3. But even before it's 14-3, they completely abandon the run game. And so they only rush for 64 yards on the game. Did you think watching that it was too early to go so one-dimensional?
100%. I think too, like, we really saw Bryson finding a groove there early. He had some really big plays. So it's not that it wasn't working. You just needed to try it out in some different ways. So I think giving up on it that early was a huge weakness by Baylor. I mean, Auburn did a really good job of stopping the run, so I get it. But I don't ever think you give up on it. It really just, you should not be doing it that early.
And it also shows that you don't have a lot of trust in your defense.
Yeah.
And it's something that we probably don't appreciate at the time when it's starting. But it definitely, and they didn't get too creative in their run game. That they lead to that 4th and goal in the second drive by basically running it straight into the line 3 straight times. And I just think they can get more creative with it. And they do have another back, even with Dawson Pendergrass out, that can make plays happen. Here's what Dave Aranda thought about that.
Were you impressed with what Kaden was able to accomplish in his first collegiate game?
Yeah, I thought, he showed what he had been showing here, and I think, on the practice fields and that, and there's a couple guys that, we were not able to see that from, and so really working to get them on the forefront for this next game, to be able to show out like we know they can. But it was really good to see him capitalize on the moment, and he had some big runs there when we needed him. I thought pass protection-wise, he was where he needed to be. And so there's a lot of positives for him, for a young dude, and everything happening fast, and the bright lights and everything. I think he did a great job.
Dave.
And here's a guy who came in with a bunch of hype, obviously, in Kaden Knighten, who needs to play probably a little bit earlier than he thought he was going to. And he makes the most of it, Sydney. He has a pretty good game. He scores a touchdown in the pass game. 6 for 29 on the ground. There's not a ton to take from that. But he scores a touchdown through the air. He did pick up some big blocks on some big-time pass plays. He got a holding call that I don't even know if he meant to do. It was a hold, but I don't even know if he meant to do it. So when he was called upon, he certainly did some good things. Did that live up to kind of the mini hype we put on him for week 1 of his college football career?
For sure. This is a guy who we're talking fresh out of the gates here, like just looking for reps in his first college game. Like, that was huge for him to have just go out there. I mean, the penalty, not what you want, but almost like when it comes from one of the younger guys, you kind of just brush it off of like, well, you're going to learn.
Yeah, and he needed to pick up 2 guys on that play, to be fair. He needed to pick up 2, which is not easy for any running back.
But I think I know we didn't see a ton of production from him as far as the numbers look, but I think even just like what you said, as far as blocking and being a guy who can step up in that role, I think we saw a lot of potential out of him, and they're going to need more out of him. Obviously, it's so fun watching our wide receivers and, seeing Kobe Prentice. Oh, loved him. I want to see more of him and Michael Trigg, but the run game is where it's going to help you win a lot of games. And so really getting Kaden in a good groove and alternating between him and Bryson is going to be huge for them to figure that out moving forward.
And another aspect of unleashing that run game, Dave Aranda said after the game, he said, Sawyer's fully healthy. And he took some hits in that game. In fact, I speculated on Twitter all night long that he was not 100% healthy, but no design runs for him in this game. We saw them here and there last year. If Sawyer Robertson is healthy in a game where he was getting blitzed pretty bad, and it probably could have used a play where he could break out of the pocket and get some open field, if he's healthy, Sydney, should we be seeing more design runs for a big athletic kid like Sawyer Robertson starting this weekend?
Why not? Like, what are we holding back on? You have to throw everything on the table playing SMU. This, seriously, going back again, is a must-win game for Baylor. If they want to have or achieve any of their goals they have set for the season, you have to win. So if you're not throwing the playbook out there in this game and trying out everything, then what are you doing? It's like you're not even trying. I felt like they could have even been more creative against Auburn. I think they held back a little bit. So what's holding you back now? Like, let Sawyer run, do some different things. If you're not going to hand it off to the guys, then see if you can open up anything for your quarterback.
And I even like some, maybe not, they did a toss option once, but I'm talking like a read option like we saw from Jackson Arnold so many times that game Friday. Like, trust him to make the decisions. You trust him to make the reads when it's a pass play. All their long routes or deep routes or option routes, so you're trusting him to make a read on the defense and for a receiver to make the read on the defense. I just don't know why it's not that same trust for him to run the ball. I mean, again, he's a big kid. Kevin Jennings is not a big kid, but he's a great athlete, and so they trust him to do that. Sawyer Robertson's like, what, 6'3", 6'4"? I mean, he's a load, man. He could do it. Last thing, before we get out of here, let us know, by the way, what you think about this rushing attack and what needs to improve on it and how to beat SMU. But it is trivia time, Sydney.
Trivia time.
It is trivia time, and I've got to do a shout out here. And while I find who got this right, because I didn't write it down, here it is. We were talking about the question from the other day. So talking about SMU, Eric Dickerson led the Southwest Conference in rushing yards in 1981, but did not make the All-American team. So then who were the 2 running backs who each won the Heisman Trophy at some point in their career that actually took those spots on the All-American team all the way back? Who could forget it? Sydney was right there in 1981. The answer, the shout out, goes to Bernie Brown, who watches all these videos. So thank you so much for following along, Bernie, always in the comment section. And he got it right. From USC, Marcus Allen, that year's Heisman Trophy winner, and the next year's Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Georgia, the great Herschel Walker. Those, if you're going to be left off the All-American team, those are 2 pretty good names to be left off for. So Bernie Brown gets the shout out for getting it right, but now we shift focus to today's trivia question, which will be answered or shouted out on Friday's show. Okay, the last time these 2 teams matched up, Sydney, was back in 2016. I was a sophomore in that game. I was at that game as a student. Baylor won 40-13, I believe, was the final score. And in that game, they honored one of their all-time great trailblazers, Baylor did. The first African-American player to play football in the Southwest Conference. We want to know who that late, great Baylor star that they honored back in 2016 was, right around the 50th anniversary of being the first scholarship athlete, or the first player to play, first African-American player to play in the Southwest Conference. If you know who that is, let us know in the comment section below, or tweet at us at Locked On Baylor. And of course, the first one that gets it right will get the shout out on Friday's episode. Sydney already knows the answer. She's not going to say it because she doesn't want to spoil it.
So smart.
Sydney, I'm going to refrain for now because I'm going to be on the show again. You're not going to be on the show again before the SMU game. Who do you like in this one?
Tough. I just don't know if Baylor can respond truthfully. I hope they do, but I'm a little worried about it. I don't know if the defense can make a big enough turnaround. So unfortunately, I have to say SMU. If I'm being honest, I hope I am so
We want the
wrong.
honesty.
I hope I am so wrong. Please, let's talk about this, and you can call me out next week. But just from what we've been hearing in press conferences this week, what is there to be confident in? I don't even like the tone that we're hearing. Like,
here's what you can be confident in. Here's a little sneak peek,
you.
okay, of what I'm going to say. Here's what you can be confident in. SMU's defense is not Auburn's defense. SMU's offensive line is not Auburn's offensive line, although there needs to be major strides for Baylor to stop the run. And they don't have the receiving core Auburn had, but Auburn didn't really need to unleash that. I think if Baylor doesn't fall behind 7-0, they will score 40 points in this game. I am going to take the Bears, but I'll get a little bit more in depth on the crossover edition, Locked On Baylor, Locked On SMU with Grace Singleton tomorrow. So, Sydney, thanks so much for joining once again. It wouldn't be a Wicker Wednesday without you. It would just be a Wednesday, and we don't want that.
And that's not fun.
We don't want that
also,
at all.
Cam, can we take 2 seconds? Because I'm sure you haven't talked about how you're the biggest winner of the weekend. Congrats on getting engaged. So happy for you. I was so locked off my phone that I was 2 days late to seeing your post, but locked on and here and so happy for you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a lot of planning, and I'm glad to not have to lie about stuff anymore. So.
I have no idea how you were so cool on this podcast because I had no idea I would have been a nervous wreck, but you were so calm, cool, and Cam.
It was tough, but thank you. I got to say, Friday night in particular, being so wired after doing this post-game show at 12:30 Eastern time, and then knowing what was coming up the next day, I couldn't sleep for a couple of hours. So thank you. Yeah, it was a great weekend. We had a lot of family in town, and it's a long time coming. We needed her to graduate her doctorate program first to kind of settle into our lives a little bit. But yeah, we've now got that and already a date. So we're going. We are all setting sail. It will not be during the football season.
That is a proper wedding.
That's where I got some say in it, and Grace didn't really want it in the football season either. So anyway, but thank you so much. Thank you for joining, and thank you guys for making it your first listen today and every day. Let us know that trivia answer and your score predictions in the comment section below, and then be sure to like and subscribe and help us on the way towards 5,000 subscribers for this ever-growing channel. And we will see you tomorrow on your favorite show, which is, of course, Locked On Baylor.